Okay, guys, I want to avoid some legal snags by telling everyone you're being recorded right now, and anything you say or do will be seen by at least 3 people. So,
I'm
not saying anything, Tim.
Not even.
I'm gonna get my lawyer.
Maybe 2.
Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
All right, well, welcome to Fathers of the Grind episode. I believe we're in 190, but no one cares about the number. What we care about is it's time to talk Game of the Year awards. My name is Tim Nestor. I'm here as always for almost 3 full years of this. Why? Derek Teague.
Hey, how you doing, best friend?
Doing great.
Good.
Our friendship has never been more on the rocks. We'll get into that in a little bit. We're also joined by our new regular co-host, Daniel Freitas. Daniel, how's it going?
You're good. You're a glutton for punishment, Tim, and I respect that. So
That's fine. Where's my sound? Where's my sound effect?
this is a real, just professional episode, so I'm just gonna keep it profesh.
All right, Wow, I gotta sit up in my seat now. We're also joined by our regular guest, our resident Minnesota Vikings fan too, I believe. Big game tomorrow night. That's Dan Phillips. Dan, welcome.
Hey guys.
And then of course we've got one of the guys who's joined us, I think, for every game of the year that we've done. This is now our 3rd game of the year debate show. I'm pretty sure you've been on every one at some point, and that's Kyle Neely.
I think that's right. Yeah. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Somewhere up in the mountains. We're not sure where, but he has swords and a beard. So that's all we know.
We're over there.
Yeah. Also, for the first time joining the show, one of Kyle's co-hosts on a podcast they do is Jeff Widman, IDC. Jeff.
I don't
Not care about being here. I can't believe I got roped into this.
Did you get real quiet?
Yeah, I was gonna say a little quiet there, Jeff.
Jeff, you're quiet.
I thought that was recording audio really quiet. Hold on.
It's quiet. That's okay.
It's like a
No one stopped
man.
the recording. We'll keep going. We're good.
He's everything but. Trust me, I do it this all the time. So
This is Metal Gear Solid 5. He can play the role of quiet.
Yeah,
No.
I need you to get half naked there, Jeff.
No one wants to do that.
No one wants to do that.
Let's put
Are
this
you
on
gonna
pause.
wear a nice little top for us, Jeff?
God.
Jeff, we're gonna need you to get half naked there, buddy. Come on.
And then bend over on her face and be like, "Why are you looking at me like that?"
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. It's photosynthesis.
God, if you agree.
Fuck out of here.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was a thing.
No.
That made no sense.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
Makes no
a
sense.
thing. It was
Yeah.
definitely a thing.
Oh man.
Kojima-
Explaining it.
There we go.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Hey, we can hear you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Let's say it again. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Cool. Hey, already got an edit point for the podcast. Awesome.
I probably won't do much editing. These are probably gonna be long shows, and it's gonna be
yeah.
whatever. Deal with whatever
Too much
we get.
homework. I get it.
Too much homework. Yeah.
So I was saying that I don't care about being here, but I'm happy I got roped in anyway. And me and Kyle here to represent Childless Nation.
Yeah.
I don't even
Fathers
know
of
what
the
that
Night,
is. So.
We don't have kids. That's all that is.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Oh, can I join you guys then? All right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
Daniel needs to get on your guys' boat then.
Freitas wants in on that one, I think.
We're so much
Daniel
smarter than
is
you guys.
Tim and I's kid, so that's why he fits in on
Oh,
fire.
okay. I got
We let our child on.
The theme comes full
that adds
circle
up.
here. Yeah.
What everyone's learned over this weekend is that anyone who is okay with enjoying a movie like Star Wars and not criticizing it for being, unrealistic or not exactly what they want, those are my kids, because that's how my kids think about movies. They enjoy stuff for what they are. And so I've decided that anyone else out there who enjoys Star Wars, you are my child. So
Tim, am I your child?
Happy to be part of the family.
Tim, you don't have
Yeah,
enough
it's
children,
nice
right?
to be welcomed into the family like
yeah,
that. Thanks.
you're welcome.
I'm the only one that's not welcomed into the family. This is ridiculous.
Derek, you've been in and out. You know that. You've been.
That's what she said.
Ew.
This is not my first time,
Fair
but
weather family member,
All right. Well, I still can't see Derek's video, so
it doesn't matter.
you know what? You're right. It doesn't. That's a good point. All right, so we're going to get into this. We're going to alternate between lists we want to create together and then lists that we're going to debate and which one goes where and which one's number 1 down through 10 for most categories. Some might only warrant a 5 or something like that. And then we're going to alternate that with just, hey, what's your personal picks for some of these categories? And not all of them I think are worth debating because it's just going to be personal preference or, as I've learned, just not that interesting to try to create a shared list. Sometimes it's just not that interesting or it's repetitive, that kind of stuff. So one of those things we're not going to debate is a pretty major section of games that a lot of us have played, but I don't think it's worth really debating because they are so different, and some of them will be included in other categories, and that's indie games. So I wanted to start there and talk about some of these smaller, and again, this is kind of a lot of these definitions are pretty relative these days. Indie typically is supposed to mean it's an independent studio, right? It's not funded by some huge corporation. It's not Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo, or some other major publishing arm of one of them. It's not Activision or Ubisoft or any of these major ones. It's just typically smaller. But I guess sometimes one of those games that's just of that style can squeak into this list. I'm not going to be that picky about what you define as an indie game. In past years, we've talked about stuff like Valiant Hearts from Ubisoft being an indie game. Well, to me, that's an interesting one to compare to other indie games just because that's kind of what it is, even though Ubisoft published it. So if you guys have a strong opinion on it, feel free to leave games out. That's fine. But just want to hear from each of you and give our audience a chance to hear from each of you. What are some of your favorite smaller scale or indie games from this year? So let's go ahead and start alphabetically, which I believe puts us at both Dan's, right?
Yep, I'd say
Double
Freitas
Ds.
before Phillips.
I think Freitas comes before Phillips. You're right.
Yep.
Double D's.
Well,
Everybody loves a double D.
There you go.
of all the people here to make that joke, I didn't think it would be Phillips. That's interesting. All right.
Oh, that's when you bring the D's together.
He's usually classier than the rest of us, you know?
Oh,
When you
barely,
bring the
barely.
Ds
You
together.
brought this guy down with y'all. Come on.
No.
So, Dan, while you
Just
think
learn
about
my
it,
level.
Freitas, while you think about it, I just want to give you guys a quick list of some of the games that I think is a pretty good list of major indie games from this year. Feel free to chime in with any that I've left out. But games like After Party, Disco Elysium, Earth Knight, For the King, Grindstone, Katana Zero, My Friend Pedro, Outer Wilds. What's that? I don't know what that is.
Trash.
Rad, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Shakedown Hawaii, Slay the Spire, Sparklight, Steamrolled Quest, Hand of Gilgamesh, The Tourist, Tiny Metal, Full Metal Rumble, Trine 4, Untitled Goose Game, which made a lot of news, Void Bastards, Wargroove, What the Golf, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. I think, is that technically a indie game? All I know is that the first game was overall disappointing to folks. This one is getting a lot of love and kind of being overlooked, I think. Arise, A Simple Story, Observation, American Fugitive, Police Stories, Ape Out, and Telling Lies. And I'm sure there's many others, but so Freitas, what jumps out at you? What were some indie games, if any, that you enjoyed this year?
Well, Tim, you have some games on the GOTY list on the other side, and then you didn't include them on the indie side. So what are you doing here? This is already falling apart. So
just you need to add them in. You need to add them in. Go.
that's true. So, I didn't play too many indie specifically this year, but I was scrolling through, and there are some. So like Indivisible, for example. I don't think a lot of people even know about that game, but that's one that I played. I didn't finish it, but I played like a good 30 hours of that.
Turn-based RPG, right?
So it's kind of akin to Valkyria Chronicles.
Okay,
Oh no,
got it.
Valkyria Profile. Sorry.
Right.
It's a very unique combat, but basically, yeah, you are taking turns. I mean, there's more to it than that, but
Gotcha.
so I did enjoy that. There were certainly aspects about it that I did not, and I definitely spoke about them in previous episodes. I think if that team had a bigger budget, they could have actually had like a world to traverse that would have been more interesting. I think that was my biggest gripe with that, but
I got a question about this. Can we include games like do they have to be small in scale, or do you like, for instance, like to me, Greedfall and A Plague's Tale aren't like small games. They're not large, but they're not small. But they're kind of indie to me. They're not a big studio.
I don't know, they're like double A though.
It's like middleware, yeah, double A middleware, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's why I'm
get I get
asking.
your meaning, Derek. Yeah.
I mean, if we're including those, then it's not a contest for me personally. For a
That's
Plague
why I'm
Tale.
asking.
I mean, you can. I mean, if in your mind it's like, hey, that's the closest thing to indie I've played. That's.
I mean,
that's
I'm
legit.
gonna include them because I literally have nothing on there.
Yeah, no, that's legit. That's fine.
Okay.
Dan, who made Indivisible? Do you remember which company? I mean, that's kind of a pop quiz. Was it
I know
someone that's known?
505 Games published it, but I don't remember actually the name of the developer.
Gotcha.
Well, while he's talking about it, I'll look it up.
Thank you.
So
and,
Indivisible, is that one you're giving your wholehearted recommendation to? Do you need to be a certain type of gamer to enjoy that one?
I don't know if I honestly could recommend it, but if you like RPGs and you like unique combat, I would say give that a try. But if you like RPGs that have like towns that you go to and sort of worlds that you again traverse, it's not it's not like that. It's like almost like it's side scrolling, so to speak. Like you go left to right pretty much the entire time. And well, technically, I guess you go up because there is some platforming. So it's unique in that nature. But you go to towns and everybody's just standing around and like there's really nothing useful going on. You don't buy like armor or weapons, which is weird. But there are some shining moments in the game. I just think they could have done a lot more. But I would say as far as indie games for this year, that the main one that I would recommend is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Oh, good one. All right.
So
It's made by Lab Zero Games, who did Skullgirls.
there you go.
Oh,
Yeah, Skullgirls. That's what it was. Yeah, which is funny because that's a fighting game, which is side to
Was
side.
that an Xbox arcade live arcade game? Right?
I love that
PlayStation.
game. Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah,
I think
they made a second one too, right?
Okay, gotcha.
I believe. But yeah, Bloodstain, which is obviously a spiritual successor to Castlevania, because it's actually the same creator, the father of Castlevania.
It plays differently, I think, but maybe not.
You mean just the movement and everything?
Yeah, everything doesn't quite feel like Castlevania. Although
It's definitely a little different. Yeah,
I feel
it's
like
not exactly the same.
progression-wise, it's like exactly like Symphony of the Night, but yeah, I think there's some combat and movement type mechanics that are.
By the way, free on Game Pass. So if you've got an Xbox, you can go play Bloodstained right now.
It's really good.
It's more floaty, right? I would say.
I would say
Yeah, it is more floaty. It doesn't feel. It doesn't have that exact
Yeah.
exactness.
But I kind of liked it. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
I love it
Sometimes
too.
floaty.
I think
Usually floaty, I feel like can be a bad
It
thing.
works.
or most of
It
the time.
totally works.
Yep,
Mhm.
no, it feels great.
Yeah, that one I would recommend. It was really fun. I've actually, shame on me. I've never finished Castlevania, like Symphony of the Night. I remember playing some of the Game Boy Advanced and DS ones.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I never finished that one. I don't
And
know.
those were all trying to like recapture the Symphony of the Night formula.
some cases, they kinda succeeded.
those are pretty good ones to play. I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Those are some of my favorite games, the Game Boy Advance ones.
Yeah. And I remember liking those. I don't know why I never went back and finished the other one, but so yeah, I would say that's the one I had the most fun with.
Cool.
For sure. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Phillips, what about you?
I'd have to probably go with Dan again on this one. For me, I mean, Bloodstained was probably the best indie on this list, or that I could think of that I played this year. Free on Game Pass, so I honestly kind of held off on it. It came to Game Pass, so downloaded it, checked it out, and I had a great time with it. Like you said, it's kind of a progression like Symphony of the Night, so felt comfortable enough, and I really liked the gameplay, so that was a good one for me. But I'd also have to recommend Grindstone. Anybody that played Apple Arcade, I don't really know if it's an independent developer that made
So
it, but
it's Cappy Games. So they've been published by
Cappy.
larger companies, by larger publishers before. But this one, I believe, is considered an indie one. I've got it on my top 3 for indie games. I
like
love
Cappy Games.
that
Yep.
game.
I had just heard the studio before, but typically I don't play a lot of mobile games. Did want to check out the Apple Arcade when that came out because that was getting a lot of praise. So that was a game I picked up. I do kind of like those puzzle games. Thought it was pretty slick. It was just a lot of fun making those big chains and combos.
Yeah.
Definitely probably the game I put the most time in with, but also I'd have to recommend Katana Zero. That was, to me, it felt like it was Hotline Miami just in a 2D side scroller.
Oof.
And
Yeah. Really
it didn't-
stylish.
Very
yeah,
accurate,
very stylish. The combat felt really, I don't know, meaty and for lack of a better word, visceral. But the only thing it didn't quite have that Hotline Miami did, the soundtrack just wasn't as good, but it was still a lot of fun to play.
But they really used that cool VHS mechanic, right? The
Yeah,
whole
yep.
rewind
Mhm,
aspect of things was very cool.
The
I
story's
love
kind
it.
of cool
And you
too.
could slow down time, and
Story is cool.
when you get into a lot of different enemies, you can slow down time, and you're dodging bullets and rolling through them, and it was really good. I like the combat in that.
Me too.
All right, Jeff, what about you?
Oh God, here we go.
Let's limit it to 3. I have a bad feeling about this.
Don't quote Star Wars. Oh, sorry. I'm triggered. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Recency bias. I totally get it. So my favorite indie game is actually its Observation. This came out on PS4 and PC, I believe. Devolver Digital published it. Not really, like a no-name 12-people group developed it, called No Code, and it's a sci-fi game where you play as the AI. Basically, you're playing like the HAL from 2001, more or less, and there's a lot of puzzle aspects and stuff like that, but it's just a really good story. And if you're into like really weird kind of brainy sci-fi stuff. That'll break your brain, and this one's up there for sure.
Is it kind of along the lines of like a Talos Principle type of like? Is it first person puzzle adventure style?
I was gonna ask.
Not really. This is more narratively focused, and the puzzles aren't as. Talos Principle is like I cheated a lot to play that game, and this one is not like that at all.
Okay.
This one's more like, I wonder how to do this. Oh, figured it out. Boom, and then it clicks with you, and you move on or whatever. So like and playing as the AI, I totally fully didn't expect it to be like such a fluid gameplay experience. I really kind of anticipated it to, I don't know, kind of being a chore to get through. Like, how can you create interesting gameplay out of this? But they have you doing totally different things. Like you can move your consciousness into like a sphere on the ship and move around the ship.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty rad. The story's got a really cool cliffhanger and stuff like that. Other ones I put a Simple Story in there. That's kind of a late entry. It came out a couple weeks ago. It's I guess you can call it a platformer. But there's a mechanic involved where you can fast forward or rewind time, certain aspects of time, because you're exploring your own memories that after you've passed away. And I thought that was a really cool mechanic. It's very fluid. Like it's just you can literally just tap like RB and it just like goes like a second forward in time, and you can tell
that the visuals on that one look pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty stunning.
That's
and the music
that's a Dead
really
Santa great. Viking game, right?
Yes, that's it. Dead Santa Viking game. That's the one. It's really good. It's like $20. It's totally worth it. I think it's another. This one, like Observation, they're both like short 3-4 hour games. It really just depends on how good you are at figuring stuff out like that. Nice. And then Outer Wilds. No, I'm just kidding.
It's funny because that game gets a lot of love. Yeah. That game gets a lot of love. I would no problem with people liking it. That's totally fine. It's just not my thing.
I couldn't get too far in that game. I really tried, and it's not that I really mind the controls or what it was trying to do. I don't know. It didn't hook me.
You know, when I stopped was when I got a decent amount and I got out in my spaceship and I started to do a couple of things, and then when you die, it all kind of starts over. Sorry, little minor spoiler here. And that's when I was like, no, I'm not playing this.
The second rogue-like elements show up. You're like, nope.
No. Not for an adventure game. I was like,
I'm not. Where I bounced out too. I died a couple times. I was like, nope.
Yeah, I get that, and that's like the first 20 minutes of the game. So that's like the main concept of the game. I totally get getting frustrated. I honestly, if you could remove a concept of the game, I would totally remove that because you don't need it.
Yeah.
I feel like the exploration is good enough in the game. But I like the game. I've seen a ton of hate about the game, but like, I like it. That's only not like my favorite.
Once you get used to the like mechanics of the flight, like it's very intuitive and very good. So.
Only the wokest of video gamers get that game. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Tim, you're such a dad.
No, but for real, my third one though is Void Bastards. That game really impressed me.
That game's fun, right?
Cool. Yeah.
Kind of creepy too. Like when you're facing some of those creepy creatures in the spaceships, it's a little creepy.
Yeah, I'm like always kind of. It's one of those games where it's not to the degree of like Resident Evil 2 crap.
No, not like that. But like nightmare.
Like where you're kind of like, peeking around a corner and you're like, oh please don't let there be a guy there, please.
Yeah, because I'm all out of ammo and my health is almost gone. My oxygen is low.
And you cough and you're like, oh great.
The roguelike parts of that game, the roguelike parts of that seem to work really well, and it was kind of like that one game. Rogue Legacy, where every character you'd start would have different attributes,
have traits.
Give you a little bit of a different play style. So I kind of thought that was cool.
Yeah,
very cool art style in it.
Yeah. That's another main appeal for me.
All right, Mr. Kyle, what about you?
I'm not to echo kind of stuff that people have been saying.
I skipped over Derek completely.
Yeah, I would say this category you probably don't need to include.
Yeah,
Derek has like 10 ones to list off.
Category, or?
Derek has like 10 games to list.
Well, we are going to definitely talk about games like Greedfall and A Plague's Tale. So if those are the ones that you would say, if those are indies, those are definitely. Then I want to save that conversation because
you could throw My Friend Pedro in there.
I was gonna. That was one I was gonna endorse. So.
Yeah.
What do you like about it, Derek?
Huh?
What do you like about it, My Friend Pedro?
I bought it.
I spent money.
He literally had eyes on time with it. That's why I did it.
I'll be honest with you. I gotta be honest with you. I bought it and I've never played it.
So you like that you spent money on it?
I saw a trailer and it looked great.
It's a big metaphor for.
All right. I should have.
And I'm like, Yeah, that's the only one I bought.
I
So.
should have just moved ahead with how my instincts obviously guided me, and that was to skip Derek.
Sometimes you gotta trust your gut, Tim. You know.
I know. All right, Kyle. So you go ahead.
I am gonna endorse my friend Pedro. It is a lot of fun. It's side-scrolling, Max Payne, I guess you could call it that. It's bullet time central. I mean, you can get on like a skateboard and then like jump off the skateboard and kill someone with it. Like it's a really wacky, zany game.
Well, they introduced the time slowing mechanic really early, and they teach you how to use it in some creative ways in this opening.
And it's very cool, and a lot of like shooting bullets at like frying pans and like reflective surfaces, so it shoots like in different directions. This game's just nutty. It's a lot of fun. I really like the art style too. It's very simple but effective.
It's all very ragdoll, like your character's kind of just flopping around.
He's
ragdoll
like
effects are still funny.
Devolver, man.
Yeah,
always fun.
Devolver is India as indie as it gets. So
it's true.
Anyway, as someone has said as well, Katana Zero, Bloodstain. I mean, these are just games that are just outstanding. I think Bloodstain's probably my favorite indie of the year. But if I'm trying to bring something new to the table, my friend Pedro is I would say, don't miss this one. It's why we play video games. It's just fun. There's nothing else to it. There's nothing to it. It's just fun. And if you want to like redo it to try and get better scores, it just kind of harkens back to that arcade play style. So it's a good game. Check it out.
And it's got a super wacky, very talkative banana as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great mascot. That's all I can ask for is a great mascot.
Gonna get a tattoo of that boy.
All right, add to the collection. All right, so you guys already mentioned a few that I think were really good indie games from this year. I think for me, it's kind of tough to choose a favorite, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Wargroove as my favorite indie of the year. Really like what they put together, this combination of Advanced Wars and elements of Fire Emblem, like basically the fantasy elements. It really plays like a Fire Emblem game, and I really like it. By the way, if you do like, really plays like an Advanced Wars game. If you do like Advanced Wars and you like tanks and soldiers and stuff, there is an absolutely unapologetic ripoff that just released their second entry called Tiny Metal Full Metal Rumble. It's a very Japanese style game, but it's really good if you like Advanced Wars. If you don't, then what's the point?
Tim really misses Advanced Wars, like really misses.
I missed. Me and you are on that hill together, Tim. I love Advanced.
I love Advanced Wars, but Tiny it's good, but it's not that much different from the original. And I can't say it's one of the best indie games of the year. I just want to throw it out there if you're missing some Advanced Wars. But I'll go with Wargroove. It's actually got a pretty interesting story, lots of fun side missions, tons of ways to upgrade. They've improved the game over time too with a few updates, with additional content, as well as a little more forgiving ability to save and suspend battles and stuff like that. So I really love that game. Another one I want to throw attention to real quick before we move on is The Tourist, which when I first saw it, I thought The Tourist looks like someone created a kind of isometric adventure game out of Minecraft, and I'm not interested. When I first saw the trailer, but as I let the trailer unfold, I was like, this actually looks really good. And now that I've purchased it and I play it, it looks a lot more like a very realistic Lego game, kind of. Mm-hmm. The graphics are great. The characters kind of move like the little folks from Wreck-It Ralph that are in his video game. They bounce around. So they kind of move around like those little people that he's wrecking their building. Anyway, The Tourist is really creative. It's not difficult at all. It's a very easy game, but it's surprisingly fun. There's all these different islands to explore. It's a fun one to play with kids too if you have kids, but otherwise it's also still fun for adults. Don't get me wrong, it's very clever and very surprisingly good looking game, I think, for the Switch there.
I fully endorse that. That's a great game.
Yeah, The Tourist is really good. So there's a bunch of others, but let's for the sake of actually getting to the meat of the show here, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move the frick on.
And we are gonna I'm gonna let Derek pick. Derek, I want to go after one of these three genres, and I'll let you decide which one we're gonna go after first here. We're either gonna pick our top 10 best action games, best adventure games, or best RPG/RPG hybrid games. So which one do you want to go at first?
Let's do RPG.
All right. So we are going to together. I'm gonna read through this list we've got so far, and then we'll weed it down to 10, and then we will together try to organize those into a top 10 list. Sound good?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, so here's the games I've got on the list.
Can you just put, though, before you start, can you just put Anthem at number 1, please?
Well, it's alphabetical.
Let's do this, Derek.
It's alphabetical, so it's already up there.
PC, baby.
All right,
I can't
so
wait for the new update. Oh, never mind.
Feel free to add any that we're missing here, because there's games that do have RPG hybrid things that I didn't put in the list that you might want to make a really good case that as an RPG, its RPG elements might qualify it. So that's up to you to make that case. But here's the ones that jumped out at me that I'm aware of: Anthem, Astral Chain, Borderlands 3, Code Vein, Darksiders Genesis, Dauntless, Dragon Quest Builders 2, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Indivisible, Kingdom Hearts 3, Oninaki, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Rad, Rage 2, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Shakedown Hawaii, Slay the Spire, Star Wars Jedi The Fallen Order, SteamWorld Quest Hand of Gilgamesh, The Division 2, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, The Outer Worlds, The Surge 2, Trine 4, Wargroove, and Disco Elysium was added just a few minutes ago, looks like. So
that was me.
I haven't played Disco Elysium, by the way, and even though we made fun of it at our Game of the Awards review show, I'm very interested in it.
Me too.
I don't.
Of course you did.
I'd really like to check it out.
PC game. I want to play it too, but it needs to come to console.
Well, let me.
Until then, we will make fun of it.
I want to ask Jeff this because I haven't watched any like playthroughs of it. You've played it, right?
Yeah.
Disco. Okay. Does it have any gameplay, or do you just walk around and talk to people?
It's like the old Fallout games.
It's not a Derek game.
Right?
Let's put it that way.
Isn't it like the old Fallout games?
Yeah, click on something, you walk to it, and then you go talk to somebody. Yeah, pretty much
Right.
that's it. And then if you want to do an action, it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. You roll.
Yeah.
You roll dice and
Interesting. Okay.
roll that number.
All right. So what we'll do is we're actually going to go in reverse order.
Can I just add one more? Remnant from the Ashes.
Yeah. Sure.
Yep.
If I can spell. It's funny that you mentioned that one because I just fired that one up in the last couple of weeks to see what it's like before we had these discussions. That one's interesting.
I love it.
All right.
Underdog of the year for sure.
So we're going to go in reverse order and each nominate one to remove. And if someone wants to defend it, they can. But if there's really no argument, we'll get rid of it till we get down to 10. So I'll start. I'd like to suggest that we move Anthem from this best RPG list.
Well, no, it's number 1, Tim. What are you talking about?
I know.
Yeah.
What the hell?
You put it at number 1. Why
I
did you
don't
put it
know.
at
I
number
think
1?
it's too hard to release it.
I set it up as a shock value moment. And so I'm glad it landed.
There are so many obvious ones on here. Why would you go after my baby?
That's not your baby. Come on.
That's totally. I have the PC copy right here, brother.
He's in the server right now by himself.
All right, tell you what. Let me pick a different one. I'll let Derek kill that one. Let me pick a different one. I'm gonna say, since I might be the only one who's played it, I'm gonna eliminate Shakedown Hawaii. It's really fun arcade game, and it does have RPG elements, but it's not one of the best RPGs.
No, it's very fun. I would have maybe even brought that one up for like one of the better indies, but very fun.
It is really fun, but not RPG. Okay.
No.
Not one of the best RPGs, at least. It does have RPG elements to it. Okay. So let's go backwards. We're gonna hit Kyle, you're next.
Let's get Ghost Recon Breakpoint out of there. Get it out of there.
Yes.
I'm not gonna defend that.
Gross.
It's not
Derek,
even
what
an
about
RPG.
you? Let's get rid of Rad. I don't give a shit about that.
He's killing all the
there you go.
indies. Save them, everybody.
Swear before I am.
Rad
I
is
agree with that actually.
No,
Rad's
that's fine.
unique.
Yeah, I've never even played that, so I kind of.
Rad is a pretty unique game. It's got some interesting moments. Certainly not one of the best RPGs though. I only bought it because Jeff, blanking out on his name, from our
other Jeff, yeah.
Yeah, from the Nerds Gone Platinum show. Anyway, sorry Jeff, I'm blanking out on your last name for a second here, but he recommended it to me, and I do like it, but not one of the best RPGs. Jeff, what about you?
Rage 2. I don't know how people feel about that.
Funny, right as you said that, I could hear a toddler screaming from downstairs.
Big Rage 2
upset.
fan. Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna make my top 10, and
No,
it's
yeah,
not
that's-
gonna make this top 10. I'm
Rage
not gonna.
2 is
That's
the
fun.
best meh game of the year.
Oh, you're kind of right though. All right, let's get rid of it for best RPG.
It should be in most disappointed if there is that category.
I don't know.
I have
I don't
fun
know
with it,
if
but
you
it's
had
not-
expectations for that game, you were probably way off to begin with. So.
Yeah.
No, I definitely had
Good point.
expectations. I like the first one
Ooh,
a
man,
lot.
There's a lot of wrong things being said out loud right now.
I liked Rage 2, but it's not going to make really any of my top lists, except for maybe the best first
I
person.
enjoyed it
shooters.
too. I actually think it has one of the best shotguns like in
Ooh,
game.
yeah, shotguns are fun.
Like ever. Like
All right,
feels really
Mr.
good.
Phillips, what about you?
I'd say Trine 4. I've played a couple of the Trine games and they're good. Probably not
No,
I
best
haven't played
RPG.
I don't know.
I haven't played this one, but compared to some of these other RPGs on this list, I just don't believe it'd be
Anybody
the best.
want to defend it?
Trine's kind of more puzzly, right? So like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always reminds me more like The Lost Viking or something like that.
Okay. All right. Freitas.
So we're doing this like Kill Your Babies, huh? I like this.
Yeah, and the next time through, we're gonna have everyone say, "Here's what I want to keep on the list."
All right. Well, I'm gonna pick
positive things.
I'm gonna pick
Yeah.
Sekiro because that's not an RPG. So
I'm
the list.
fully with this one. Yes.
I thought so, but I didn't play it because I don't.
Get it
play
off
miserable.
the-
No,
So-
it barely has any RPG elements.
No.
in
Yeah,
it.
there's plenty of upgrades and experience points, but whatevs. If you guys don't think the Dark Souls games are RPGs, that's fine.
Well,
Whoa.
it does have some RPG elements. I didn't like this country.
I mean, it fits in the hybrid,
But
It
does
does.
it
I
have
think it
stats?
definitely
Yeah,
fits within
no,
the
definitely.
context of being a
and
hybrid.
it doesn't. I'm not going to get in this because I get that Tim wants to move the show along, but Sekiro, whatever you want to call it,
Sekiro.
it doesn't level up like Bloodborne and Dark Souls, so it's
No, it
not
does
the
not.
same at all.
Yeah,
So-
It doesn't have that depth of RPG mechanics.
I agree. I agree with that as well. Yeah.
It's a great game, though. We are going to talk about it, just not
it
for
is.
RPG.
I don't like getting rid of it right now, but whatever.
I think it's
Too
better
bad.
talked in action.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so let's work our way back up through it. Freitas, what's one that you want to make sure stays on the list, or at least you have a chance to
You didn't
defend?
get that one, you jerk.
Yeah, you did. You got rid of Rad.
That was it. One? I want two.
He's a
We'll get there.
savage.
Can I get 3 then?
He's a
All
savage.
right.
All right, we're going to go back up through the list,
I'll make the 10 right now.
and I'm going to have you each. Holy cow! I'm going to have you each pick one I'd like to see on the list or like to defend, and then here's another one I suggest we get rid of, and we'll see if we can't whittle this thing down a little more. So, Freitas, you get us going. One that you want to keep, and one that you're okay with losing.
One that I want to keep. Kingdom Hearts 3.
I'm staying behind you. Let's go.
I am fully with Dan on this
Let's
one.
see.
Any others
behind you.
that you want to remove, or you okay with skipping for now?
Shoot. Astral Chain. I don't.
Okay.
Is there? Because I actually didn't get around to playing it.
It's pretty
unfortunately.
mild RPG
It's a better
elements.
action
Yeah.
game than RPG.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seemed like more of an.
That was
action
going to be
game.
one that I suggested because I do love it,
Yeah.
but not as an RPG.
Yeah.
All right, Phillips.
One I want on the list would be the Outer Worlds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed with that.
The one that I would be okay removing is Anthem.
Ooh.
Anybody
Shame
want to
on
defend it?
you.
I'm sorry, Derek.
Derek, now is your time.
Derek
want it?
will remember this.
He's quiet. I'd take that as a sign.
For real though, I need to know. Does anyone want it on our top 10, or at least to be able to argue for it, or no?
I actually enjoyed playing that game, but get it out of here and every other list. Just get it off there.
Thank you.
Just across the board.
You can enjoy
permanent
something
delete.
and know that it's garbage at the same time. So.
Yeah,
This
I
is
agree.
true. This is true.
I made
Permanent
it, and I was
deletion.
like done with that. Totally.
Yeah,
done.
right.
Yeah.
The second
Kind of
game
like
I was
Star
like,
Wars. You can
good.
enjoy it,
Oh,
Oh, there it
We
is.
are not talking about. Okay, sorry.
And there it is. All right, Derek. What about you? Give me one that you definitely want to keep, and then one you're okay with.
Borderlands 3 staying.
Yeah, agreed.
Get rid of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Nope.
no.
All right, that was
We're gonna
actually
fight
why I
for that
wanted to get a second. And I'm gonna go with Dragon Quest Builders too.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ouch. That's rough.
See, I only
think
played-
It looks like a good
Okay,
game, but I
like
didn't
an
play it.
action- I know it's got like
Well,
elements, but like you know.
I only played the demo, and
It's a nice
it is definitely an RPG because it's got combination of simulation for city building and farming, but it does have some action RPG elements. But
I mean, it's.
I didn't know that. Like,
I'm
oh,
okay
I'll have to
with
look
it
more into
leaving.
that game. I didn't realize
Yeah.
there was more.
it's
to-
good. Listen,
realize there
if
was
it's like the only thing you're going to be playing, I think it's great. But I think with all the other games out there to play, other games do the farming and city building better. Other games do the action
I'm-
RPG stuff
I'm
better.
thinking of the other Dragon Quest Warriors, like the
Oh,
Koei game.
well,
Yeah,
no,
no,
this
I'm
is-
like, no, I totally know which game
this
you're
is
talking
Dragon
about now.
Quest Minecraft, basically.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I haven't even
I'm
played
pumped.
this one, and I kind of want to argue it's staying. To be honest, I feel like.
I don't care. You got Kingdom Hearts
Yeah,
3.
no, I
so
think
you
it should
can
stay.
shut
Yeah,
your mouth.
Kingdom Hearts is the most RPG game on this list. You
It's
fool.
also the most
It's one of the
trash.
most.
All right, moving on to
Probably.
Jeff.
I'm gonna fight till the death for Disco Elysium to stay on the list.
Okay.
Because it is RPG as hell and very good at it.
Okay.
And
Anything
I don't
you
know.
wanna cut?
I'm not a huge fan of Division 2 being on the list.
Ooh, I like that one a lot. But again,
I do too, but not as an RPG.
it
so
doesn't
much.
need to stay. I think as an RPG hybrid, it's one of the better action RPGs. But there's probably 10 other ones that I'd put over. If no one else is that in on Division 2 as an RPG, I'm okay with dropping it.
As an RPG, no. I'd say it has definitely elements more than
Yeah. Are we still playing that game today? Is anyone here playing?
No, I stopped. Yeah.
Well, Derek and Alan bought it, and then we haven't played yet.
I got to kind of that.
I guess it's
the second phase of the game after the main story is over. You're kind of in like the end game. I got to that, and it's really great. I love it.
I think it's great. Everything up until and this is how the Division 1 was for me as well. The second I got to the end, I was like, well, I don't want to do all this again.
Well, I probably put 35, 45, something like that hours into it. I felt like I got my money's worth. I think
I got my money's worth twice over.
I still feel like it's like one of the top 10 though on this list that we have.
We can wait on that then, and
it might be.
Yeah, I mean,
who's played Surge 2?
I have.
So it's definitely.
Is it one of the top 10 RPGs?
No.
Okay.
I like the first Surge, so it's more of that, but I don't like it enough to fight for it. Like I don't think it's that great.
Okay.
I would say Division 2 should stay over Surge 2.
I think so too.
That's
we can get a Surge 2.
Am I the only one that's played the Surge 2? Then it's an easy go.
Yeah.
I'm saying let it go. Let it go. Yeah, let it go.
So far, we've had 4 that have been saved. Kyle, what about you? What would you save?
I feel like a hard stance on Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yeah, man.
Gotta stay.
I was surprised no one said it yet. Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
same here. I think that's low-hanging fruit. So
I see a few more low-hanging fruit in there for sure.
Me too. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Out of this list, and I'm really just bringing this up so someone can defend it. I've never played Slay the Spire. I don't know what it is.
Ooh, Slay the Spire is fantastic. And if we're counting card battle games as RPGs, which I would, it totally has to stay.
Absolutely, make it stay then. Yeah.
Slay the Spire totally has to stay.
I'm really more just curious what it is. That's why I bring it up.
It's free on Game Pass if you want to go try it.
Cool. All right.
Slay the Spire is fantastic as a turn-based.
Tim, you don't get to keep Slay the Spire and Wargroove, so I need you to pick one there, Barbie. You don't get
Barbie.
What was the other one? What was the other one that I can't keep?
You got to pick between Slay the Spire or Wargroove because you're gonna fight for Wargroove, so that's a big hell no on Slay the Spire.
No one else played either of those games?
I played Wargroove and I think it's fantastic.
Played Wargroove. I would take Wargroove over. Actually, I played both, and I would take Wargroove over Slay the Spire.
All right. Well, if I'm gonna have to defend one,
I'm telling you to pick one.
Why does he have to pick one? I don't.
For right now, I'm gonna defend Wargroove, but I don't want to see Slay the Spire go yet.
I mean, I don't want to cut Wargroove. I think it's great. Yeah.
I'm gonna save Wargroove for right now. So we've got 6 on there.
It's automatic.
All right. I'm just gonna open it up. Go ahead and speak out if there's one that you'd like to save.
Gotta stay.
Is anybody playing SteamWorld? I've never been into that series. Not because of I don't like it. I've just never played it.
So SteamWorld Quest is another card-based RPG that is not as good as Slay the Spire. So if I'm gonna fight for one, I'm fighting for Slay the Spire.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 you choose from. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I cut SteamWorld Quest. Then it's charming and fun, but not as
good. What about Star Wars?
Yeah,
I know you all
that
like
should stay for me. I don't.
I think it's a fantastic game, but
more of an action game, right?
It's more of an action game, right?
Okay, let's cut it.
Get rid of Sekiro or whatever.
Yeah.
If we got rid of Sekiro, then probably Star Wars is.
Yeah, there's not as much. I mean, you can kind of choose a path that you want to go with your skills, but not really.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like God of War and RPG.
Yeah, so it's light. I mean,
it would be like saying God of War is the best RPG of the year, which just feels weird to me.
I think it's fair to get rid of that one. All right, what do we think about Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening?
That's an action-adventure game to me.
Yeah, I don't call that an RPG at all.
I was about to bring that up before I brought up the Division 2, I believe.
Derek, what do you think about Link's Awakening dropping?
It needs to go.
Yeah,
okay. I really like it, but like
I love it. I think it's great. Yeah.
RPG though.
You can remove Indivisible from there. Again, there are things about it that I like, and it is an RPG. It's very RPG, but it's not top 10. So.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah. For sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Ononaki's a really cool RPG with a really cool story, but I think there's 10 other games on here that could probably take its place.
Yeah. Very good emotional story, but
very good. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's on sale right now. I highly suggest that one.
It is good.
It's really good. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, everyone's played it. Great.
I mean, do you
I
really want to fight for Dauntless?
No, not his best RPG.
No.
Not his best RPG. No. Are you sure you want to get rid of?
Like honestly, Oninaki should stay.
I feel like Oninaki should stay at least for a minute.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
I see you convincing
I like that game, and it's very RPG. It's one of the more RPG games on this list, I would say.
I love Darksiders Genesis. Like I feel like that's the type of game that Darksiders should have been this whole time, even though I've liked those games. But I don't know about.
I mean, it is like a Diablo game with like loot and stuff like that. I'm telling you, if I would have played this game this year, I'd be probably cheerleading for this game.
I like it. Like, I'm okay with it being number 10 or number 9. Like, I think it's a really good game.
Might be worth keeping them.
I think the 2 people that have played it like it.
I think
I like it a
I think
lot.
the other people who haven't played it, when we play it next year, when it comes to other consoles, I think we'll all be pretty
I think
interested.
Tim might be the only one that would be like, it's Diablo.
No,
but there's
it
2
looks
PC
good.
games. Actually, no, there's probably 3 that I really want to play from this year that aren't on consoles. Darksiders Genesis. What's the one that the guys from Pyre made?
Hades.
Hades. I really want to play Hades, and then Disco Elysium. Those are 3 that I really want to come to consoles.
Yeah, I almost picked up Genesis on Stadia. It does look like a lot of fun. I like
it's fun.
I like Diablo games though.
All right,
Me
so
too. Big fan.
call me crazy, but I was kind of assuming we would keep Pokemon Sword and Shield on here,
Yes.
even though I
I'd
haven't.
fight for
That's
Pokemon.
fair.
I'd fight for Pokemon. Yeah.
I would.
It's one of the best
I-
RPGs of the
I
year,
would
right?
never
It's like
fight
one of
yeah.
the most like
I'm with
pure
Derek
RPGs
though.
of the
Yeah,
year.
I'm okay with keeping it.
I know a
It
lot
is
of
what it
people-
is.
It
You
is.
know,
Okay,
not my
Irishman.
Pokemon
Okay,
game.
Irishman.
It's
what it
Pokemon.
is.
All right, we're at 8.
It's what it is, you know.
Wait, if we keep Darksiders, we're at 9, and if we keep Oninaki, we're at 10. So
Alright.
that would mean you're eliminating Remnant, Slay, and the Division 2.
As best RPG of the
I
year.
would-
I think
I would-
I think it's fair to it's time to say goodbye to Division 2, but it
We
is
can get
worth.
Remnant is in that Soul Sekiro like type of world as well, I would say. So maybe just get it.
So
out
is
of
it
there.
more of an action game or RPG?
I don't know. It's very loot based.
oh,
It's
super
very
loot-based.
heavy. It's very
Yeah.
heavy RPG.
I would say
compared
it's
to
very
those.
heavy RPG, but
But it's
I
good.
Code
Open
Vein
Vein-
is like that. Like
Code Vein is
Yep.
just as much RPG as Remnant, if not
Also,
more.
I
Is-
feel like
is
Code
any-
Vein
is-
should. I feel like Code Vein should stay over Remnant, and Division
Yeah.
2 should actually stay. Just so the list is a little different and varied.
I really
Perhaps.
like the Division 2 as an RPG.
Dan, let me hear what you think about that. Compared to some of these other ones, keeping that one in here as an RPG. What's the case to make for Division 2?
You're talking Phillips, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
Pretty big.
I didn't play some of these other ones that we don't have listed yet, but as far as the Division 2 and the RPG elements, you know, I just liked it because it had a lot of like, you know, things that Destiny has as far as like building your gear, getting your level based up. Had a lot of good intricacies with that and the upgrade systems and upgrade trees, and especially once you get into the end game on it, it really does kind of force you to specialize in something. So I just really thought it was a good one, and the co-op aspects of it made it a really fun RPG for me.
I feel like out of all those like MMO light games, it's probably the most RPG. Like I get it that
I think so too. I think so too.
I get that it's action, but
Yeah.
so is Outer Worlds technically.
But I mean,
Well,
you know,
I
the
mean-
RPG elements really come in as far as like some of the bonuses and stuff that you can put on your gear, and it has like real,
Yeah.
you know, effects against the enemies and how you
Yeah.
fight them, and you
It's
know,
very in depth. All
It
the
is.
gear and the upgrades is very in
It
depth.
is. It is,
Yeah.
and you do like you take hard stances on classes and like what your role is
Yeah.
in the group and everything. It's very RPG.
hmm
So let's keep the Division 2. I'm
I think-
okay with Darksiders Genesis going if people want to fight for Remnant or Oninaki over it. I'm
I mean-
not a big fan of Oninaki though. I didn't really like it.
So am I correct in thinking Oninaki is an isometric action RPG? Is Darksiders Genesis the same? I know they're different types
I
of
mean,
games.
And they're definitely different.
It's kind of
camera-wise.
generalizing. They're
Yeah.
like there's some similarities there for sure, but like they're different enough. Like I would
Okay.
say Onunaki's more maybe even like Kingdom Hearts, not new, but like old Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts 1. And Genesis is more like Diablo.
Okay. Well, if Genesis is more like Diablo, I'm gonna pick that one over Oninaki, even though I've played the Oninaki demo at least. I found the combat to be, and maybe it expands later, I found it to be very repetitive and simple.
It is repetitive and nothing changes about that.
I
So-
mean, the thing
You're
sounds-
really
Oh,
there
yeah.
for the story, for that somber, melancholy
Yeah.
So-
RPG Factory story.
How in
That
depth-
sounds like Darksiders then.
Yeah.
How in depth does Oninaki get from an RPG perspective?
I just probably not as in depth as something like Darksiders, which is very stat based, like very heavily like stat and numbers based.
Well, so
I
the
assume
sword,
I
the
haven't
weapons.
played. I just assume
Yeah.
that like the
No, you're correct. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So like the sort of souls, so to speak, that you collect in the game that are the weapons.
Yep.
You go into them, and then that's how you do the upgrades.
There's
so you
skill
get
trees
different
that you
abilities.
unlock there.
Yeah.
For every weapon that you get.
And it's actually interesting too, because like, so you're, because again, this sort of like a soul attached to the weapon, you unlock memories through the weapon. So as you're unlocking the little nodes,
they're
on
almost
the
like
skill
your party
tree,
members, like you get a little bit of story about like the souls.
like what
that are
happened to
inside
them
of
before they passed.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, it's
I mean,
really
for
good.
me-
I couldn't recommend it more, but like we're kind of at the 11th hour here. I don't know if this deserves to be cut. I'd probably keep it over Remnant. If like we're.
All right, so nobody's fighting for Remnant. Let it go.
Yeah,
I'd say let
I
it
feel
go.
like I'm the only person. I've beaten that game, and
dang.
I think it's wonderful. I just if there's no other cheerleaders for it, then there's probably
No, I like Remnant. I just started playing it recently, but I'm not that far into it, like maybe 3-4 hours, so I couldn't
What
tell you.
about Slay the Spire? Are we still holding on to that? I thought we were getting rid of
Again,
it.
I haven't played it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm the
I
only one
can't
who's
speak
played
to
it, so it might have to be a victim of being just outnumbered. I think it's one of the best RPGs. It just happens to be card based.
Yeah, I
But-
started it. I didn't get too far into it, but as far as the card-based RPGs, I really enjoyed it right from the get-go of it. I do
I'd
like
put
a
it
little
in
bit of those
over-
games, and,
I put it in over Oninaki. What I played of Oninaki.
Okay,
I haven't
I'm
played
fine with
Oninaki or
Oninaki.
Darksiders, but I'd go Slay the Spire.
With the 3 that are left, I'm going Darksiders.
Same.
You're all
But,
dead
I
to
didn't
me.
play the other two. Well, I played Oninaki, but
You're all dead to me.
All right, so we are down to Borderlands 3, Code Vein, Darksiders Genesis, Disco Elysium, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Kingdom Hearts 3, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Slay the Spire, The Division 2, The Outer Worlds, and Wargroove. One of those needs to go to get to our top 10. And a case has already been made against Slay the Spire, plus I'm the only one who's really played it. Dan played it a little bit, though. And a case has been made against Division 2 already that, hey, I'm not sure, but I feel like Phillips made a pretty good argument for it
I'm
staying
more
in there.
on.
I'll cheer hard for
Division
Division 2 if it's between those two, but again, it's because I haven't played Slay the Spire, so I don't.
Yeah.
Well, let's
And-
drop
but-
Slay the Spire, but I just want anyone who's listening who's played it and it's their favorite game, just know at least someone here, his name's Tim, stuck up for it and tried. All right.
Well, I just lost Oninaki, Tim, so I don't care.
I know,
Don't
yeah.
care anymore, yeah.
I
We've
was
all
low-key
lost
really
something
cheering for Oninaki, so that sucks.
All right, guys, there's our top 10 list. It's time to
You guys
start
took
thinking.
Anthem away from me.
Yeah, Anthem's gone. Sorry, man.
Are we really being serious about this?
It's time. It's time to start thinking
Depends.
through what goes where. I'm going to shift these down this column a little bit because those of you listening, we're all looking at a shared spreadsheet to keep track of what games are still here and what aren't. I'm going to drag
Unity
this down a
website.
little bit. That way I can drag them up into place as we talk about the top half. It seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed to me like Borderlands 3, Fire Emblem, Pokemon, and the Outer Worlds all seemed like really strong ones that people are going to fight for being pretty high. Am I off base on that?
I
I would say that
agree
those
with
are the
that.
3 that I will die on a hill for, yeah.
I would put Kingdom Hearts in that group.
Oh,
too,
I
though.
thought that was
So-
said, but yes, that is absolutely up
I-
there.
So
I-
we're actually
you know,
going to
but-
put these in order, huh?
Yeah, yep.
This is going to take 5 hours, Tim.
Do you not
That's
have that
why
content?
we do like 27 shows for Game of the Year.
All right, well, I quit. See you later. No, just kidding.
You're gonna quit when Resident Evil 2 doesn't win anything.
That's true.
I nominated Disco Elysium knowing that it would be lower because nobody else has played it. But
Okay.
once you guys see
Well,
all
and
the
I was
RPG
gonna
elements, I feel
actually-
like it'll be
If
really
that's gonna be
high.
a high
I was actually
game,
gonna
I'm
buy
like,
it this
oh,
weekend,
no, yeah.
but what held me off was I was like, "There's no gameplay. I'm
It's not for everybody. Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
boy.
there's,
Not
it's
for
by
me.
a novelist, so it's like a lot of reading and dialogue.
Oh yeah, no.
Reading.
Yep, you just sold
Reading.
Derek on that
Are
one.
you trying
Words.
to say it's like a real role-playing game, Jeff?
It,
Whoa.
Right.
it is.
No.
All right,
It
so let me
is.
rein us in since this is going to take us 5 days straight. I do think that the best role-playing game of the year, including hybrids, it's not even close. I think it's Fire Emblem 3
Hard
Houses.
same, Tim. Hard same.
Because I think Fire Emblem does the best job of telling an amazing story across multiple characters, and you have multiple paths you can take. I've tried a couple of them.
Completely different
I'm
houses.
gonna-
It's got some of the best kind of, I guess you can call them mini games, but side quest mini games, everything from fishing to cooking to relationship building, all the things that you want in a really in-depth RPG, as well as a tried and true and much improved, I would say, combat system with some amazing RPG strategy elements, tons of customization in classes. I just don't think anything comes close in terms of being the best role-playing game of the year, personally.
The Outer Worlds is better.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
I
would-
agree
it
with
would
that,
be
but I'm
between
totally
those two
biased.
for my number one, absolutely. But I think Fire Emblem's just like, I mean, I hate to bring up like it's got more content, but like there is so much content and it's all quality to that game that you could play that game for 200 plus hours and like just never get enough of it. It's just they're three completely.
Here's my argument against which I haven't played it, and I know I would like it, but like for me, strategy RPGs are kind of a unique taste versus a regular RPG.
I agree with that, yeah, and I think there's enough like breakups, like you're doing a lot of like Persona style, like social,
Sure.
like stuff.
But gameplay wise,
around. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that breaks up just the strategy RPG portion of it. And I know there's no exploration, but you kind of get like a faux exploration with like the academy grounds and everything.
Yeah.
I would say that like when you're considering it to Outer Worlds, where it just feels so freeing and like really all your choices matter and stuff like that. Like I would say it's between those two games. For, like,
I do think Outer Worlds is my favorite Fallout type game I've played. I've never been a huge fan of that type of game. They're okay. They've never done it for me. I love the Outer Worlds, what I've played of
I'm
it.
totally with Tim on that.
This might be my
it
favorite
did something
Fallout
for me.
game
Fallout never did.
so.
Yeah.
On
So
this
Go ahead.
list, the game I enjoyed the most is Borderlands 3. But since this is best RPG, and don't get me wrong, Borderlands 3 has a ton of RPG elements, so
Yes,
I'm
it
not
does.
saying it's not an RPG at all. But when I think of an RPG, Outer Worlds fits that bill perfectly. Like I talked about it when the game launched. It's an extremely intelligent game. Like like you as the player are actually impacting the world. And I know I kind of faded on it because I was like, the gameplay sucks. But now I've gone back and I've been playing it again because I wanted to be ready for this Game of the Year stuff. And I was like, you know what? You were just being a pissy biatch. Like this is a
That's
fun
true.
game. Like
It is a fun game.
It is.
Just
It is.
how
Yeah.
your decisions impact the story and
Yeah.
how the story and the writing's carried out. I mean,
It's insane.
It's
Well,
on
and
an incredible level. I mean,
I've only
it's
played
excellent.
it just the one time, but I feel like the ending that I got, and it does this. I'm not spoiling anything, but it does this like wrap up. Like this decision kind of have this outcome as it's
Yeah.
kind of like the pre-credit
Oh,
stuff.
that's cool.
Yep.
That I felt that I don't know, and I don't know how many different variances there are, but it was so specific to my decisions and everything that I don't know if I've ever played a game that where I felt my decisions felt like they matter, even more so than Mass Effect or anything. Like it was almost overwhelming how much your decisions matter.
well,
in
it
this
was like
game.
Fallout New Vegas because there was a lot of options and things
Absolutely.
going on.
I mean, again,
So-
same dev,
Yep.
same team, and everything like that. It's like this Obsidian really has like their finger on the pulse for, and like, hey, now Microsoft owns this studio. Like, I feel bad for everyone who got really hooked on this game who are only Sony fans. So
Your apology is accepted.
You know what's interesting is as I hear these cases being made for the Outer Worlds, I really, really enjoyed this game, and I need to go back to finish it. I know it's not even the biggest game ever. It's not the most difficult to finish, so I do need to
put
finish
50
it.
hours into it, and I feel like I skipped over a lot of things. Like,
Oh,
people
really?
kept on
Okay.
saying this
That's
game
the
it's
thing
really
with that game.
small. Everyone kept on saying this game is so small, and I'm like,
No,
I
it's
don't
I
know.
still haven't ran credits yet. What are y'all talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
think that's
I really dug
cool
into
about
every
the
world that
game.
I've been to so far. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot going on there, but it doesn't feel as overwhelming as like Fallout or something.
It
does.
I
can
think
be
when they say-
super short, or it can be the longest game in the world. Like
What is the
it
speed run?
really is
It's like
freaking
4
out
hours.
to play.
I forget what the speed run
4
is, but it's
hours.
insane. Like
Oh,
it's
wow.
insane
Well-
what the speed run is.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it's truly a role playing game. It says
You can
somebody
kill
like
mission
me.
queues, and
Like,
like you
okay.
cannot experience those missions. Like it is as old school and hardcore RPG as it gets. Like
Kyle says that he played 50 hours, right?
Yeah.
So clearly, judging by his time, clearly he did a lot of talking, a lot of exploring. He did all that stuff. Me, that's not going to be my playthrough. I'm still going to experience the same game story-wise to a certain extent, but my playthrough is going to be short and to the point, and probably my ending, because I haven't beat it yet, my ending is probably going to be like, you're kind of an asshole and you killed him.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
Actually,
yeah, you
your
don't
game's
talk
two
to people, you
profanities
just
now
kill them,
from
right?
there.
Eric, your game's already way different than a lot of people's,
because
and
I killed off a lot of the guys you were supposed to get missions
yeah,
from.
you
Because you're a
killed
savage.
like
yeah,
that whole
exactly,
first.
Yeah.
You
You're
killed the whole
savage.
first town, whereas I took the really painfully slow way of like making everyone happy, kind of at the end. You know,
Tim,
so,
he
of
didn't
that.
just kill the first town. He also killed one of his potential party members.
I know.
That's
I know.
great.
Creature
He def-
dude, whatever.
He definitely did.
But it's so awesome that it allows you to do all that.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
really,
Yeah,
you
it
can
is.
do it anyway, and that's
Yeah.
why it's such a strong RPG.
And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and lie on the show and be like, I put so many hours into Three Houses. I didn't, because I was like, no, this is too big, and I'm like, I was like a girl. It's too big, and I'm not touching it. But
That's what she said.
But
She said both of those
World
things.
to me, it's just for me, it's the best RPG game. It's not the best list, in my opinion.
On my personal list of best RPGs, these two at the very top, I have them swapped, but based on what I'm hearing, I hear a better case from more people being made for the Outer Worlds, and then shortly right after that, Fire Emblem as one.
I personally would put Kingdom Hearts before Fire Emblem, but I didn't play Fire Emblem. So
talk about Kingdom Hearts at least being third, then.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I would love to entertain
Let's
that.
hear it.
I think it should be up there.
Let's hear it.
Well,
Oh,
Kingdom
for me?
Hearts 3 is
crap.
a culmination of, how many years of a series existing? Nomura just being the king of prolonging a story.
Yeah.
How many games is this culminating? Isn't this like 9 games deep?
It's like 9 or 10. Yeah.
And let's talk about the story. There's passive fans who like look at the story and just go, no.
Right.
And then there's people who have been there from the beginning and like watched all the YouTube videos of people trying to like piece it all together and everything. And I'm talking about me here, and I'm just like, this story is really complicated and great, actually.
So Kyle, you watched it all. You said you watched it all like through YouTube and stuff.
No. I've played every single game,
okay.
but like trying to like get everything because there's a lot of info. Like I'm like, this game's for kids. Like this game is so
it's so hard to follow.
I bought the whole collection. So I want to say it took 2 months right before 3 came out. I did them all back to back.
Oh, get out!
See, I give you guys credit.
I was
for that.
following Dan's first time playing, but was that your first time playing, Dan F or?
No, well I had played the first 2, and then what was it, Chain of Memories, the one in between there. But then, I think all the other ones I had not played, or Birth by Sleep. I think. Birth by Sleep I did not play. The Dream Drop Distance I played a little bit, but I was so far removed from the rest of the story it wasn't connecting for me.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like if you're just playing the numbered entries, like those are the least consequential story elements to the entire franchise.
I know.
Like,
and they are.
All right, so Dan
even
Phillips,
the cell phone game that like doesn't exist anywhere else but cell phones has more story than like.
So Dan Phillips, you went through 1, 2, and 3 this year, I believe, right?
Yep, and that was my thing. I have always been interested in this series just because I like the Final Fantasy characters and I love Disney. And I always wanted to play it, but I never did. So I got the package or whatever, and I played 1.5 Final Mix and 2.5 Final Mix before 3 came out, and then I played through 3. And I know that, and definitely what Kyle's saying, all those smaller other branched off games, they hold a lot of story for what's going on. And I totally get that I missed that. And I could see the gaps just going from 1 to 2 and then, 2 to 3. But I did follow up on all, I went through and I watched YouTube videos of all these other games and then videos that kind of pieced everything together. So it made more of a cohesive story. And it is just wild. I couldn't believe these are kids' games and the depth that goes involved. And it was so hard to get my head wrapped around it. But once I did, and I got into 3, there's just an incredible payoff for what 3 does, connecting these 9 games and all this story and how it brings it together and wraps it up and puts a bow on it. And it still leaves it, and there's DLC coming out, kind of leaves it in a little cliffhanger.
So am I the only one that hates Kingdom Hearts 3? I hate it.
And I played the first 2, and I thought the gameplay was a little repetitive. Was someone
trying to say something just now? I couldn't hear the other person.
Yes, I was saying Death Stranding is trash. What I was asking is, am I the only one that doesn't like Kingdom Hearts?
That like Epstein didn't kill himself, sort of.
Yeah, what was that? Are we talking about Death Stranding now? Let me tell you guys something about Death Stranding.
I like Kingdom Hearts 3, but these guys, I can't measure up to their love of it at all.
Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed in them as they talk, but that's fine.
I'm disappointed in you all the time.
3 weeks, everyone get ready for the actual true ending. So.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, and I get that they do that with this story, but playing Kingdom Hearts 3 though was so much fun. After playing 1 and 2 and just the advances in gameplay and generations, and I did enjoy the first 2. They weren't my favorite gameplay wise. I enjoyed the action RPG part of it. It got a little repetitive, but it was still a lot of fun. But the third one, holy cow, just everything they added into it, the combat, the environment traversal, everything was so much fun about that game.
Mount Olympus when you're running up the frickin' Mount Olympus.
Yeah.
Look, I'm okay with it being cool. 3. If that's what y'all are fighting so hard for, that's why
I really thought Pokemon would be 3 or something.
There's a
even though I don't play it.
I like Pokemon, but I mean, I think, Pokemon didn't do as much new and everything. It's great for being a console entry, but Kingdom Hearts 3.
I don't know that
there's a culmination aspect to Kingdom Hearts 3, like the Avengers, where you're like, man, all of these major characters are here at the third act, all fighting this thing, and it's like it's this big moment for everybody. For like longtime fans or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think they delivered on that, and I was satisfied. I know that it needs to be this like bullshit like. Oh, bull crap. I'm sorry. Bull crap.
Okay, whatever.
Derek's already sworn like 13 times. So.
Yeah, well, me specifically, all 12 of them. So, anyways, yeah. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. There's a culmination aspect to Kingdom Hearts that I think it is worth bringing up. That it's like, I mean, for me, and Derek doesn't sound like for you, it was worth the wait. I was so excited to be playing this game again. And as it all wrapped up, and yeah, there were some like loose ends and like cliffhangers. I was like,
sure is.
Well, that means we're getting more, baby.
Right.
And you know what? More of what I love is what I want. So
Kyle, what's hilarious is even after this DLC comes out, it's still not going to be actually over.
No, it won't.
It'll never
gonna
probably
be
over.
over. Kingdom Hearts forever. Like.
So then let's do this. First of all, I just realized Greedfall was not on this list. I'm pissed.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, can we talk about Greedfall being on this list because that sucks. I mean, like, no, like I love that game. It probably should be on here. Yeah.
So Kingdom Hearts 3, let's put it at number 3 because I think Jeff and I are the only ones that. Well, and I hate it. Jeff doesn't hate it. I don't.
No, I don't hate it at all.
Let's take a vote then.
I like it. I like it just fine.
Then slide it up to 3. Who else is gonna compete with it? Like, do you got anybody gonna fight like Pokemon and all that stuff?
The passionate love for this is not coming out about any other title. So.
I come across as a butthead, but if I'm listening to
true.
Talk about it passionately, I'm not going to beat you down.
Well, then can I don't, and again, I know we need to come back to some of these with other topics. I do think Borderlands 3 as an RPG deserves to be number 4 then.
Yeah.
I agree fully.
Can we take one of these games that we didn't care about that much and put Greedfall in? Is anybody else like on the Greedfall?
Derek,
Hey.
What do you want removed? Like pick
No.
one. Like
Derek,
No,
I just
Greedfall's
picked up
not that
Greedfall
good.
today on the sale, so I am gonna
okay.
start playing Greedfall. Put it on the list.
It's pretty good. Greedfall's pretty good, guys. Like.
Tim, I'm gonna need you to delete the whole list and just put Greedfall.
Actually, yeah. We just.
All right, hang on. All right, let's slow this down for just a second. So right now our top 4, we've got The Outer Worlds, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Kingdom Hearts 3, and I suggested Borderlands 3. I didn't hear any opposition to that.
I think
that's right.
Not going to get a fight from me on that, yeah.
No,
And then based on what I know of Pokemon Sword and Shield, I was going to drop that one at 5.
Hold on, I was gonna fight the 4th place, but that's fine.
Well, let me hear it. Go for it.
Yeah. What's going on?
I mean, well, I guess I
Kingdom
can't
Hearts
really fight it because I didn't really play it, but to me it just kind of seemed like more of that, like, talking about my private sort of humor, like.
And it totally was that kind
Like,
of
has it grown up?
The
as far as
humor, the humor
fair.
is
That's
certainly
fair.
that. But Daniel, I will say this: it is one of the best as far as first-person shooters go. It's got some of the best RPG elements that those kind of games.
I will actually say that it's still my favorite looter shooter out there as well.
Yeah, I don't
like it. I think it's still the best looter shooter that exists.
I never even got into Borderlands 1 or 2, and 3 was just incredible. I thought they did an excellent job with that.
No, I've got some negatives about Borderlands 3, but it's RPG elements. So I'm just thinking of its RPG elements.
So I want to compare it because to me, even though like the main difference is first person versus third person, but for me it would be Division 2 versus Borderlands 3 then, which is the better game.
Borderlands 3.
As an RPG, I'd put Division 2 above it.
Over Borderlands 3?
Yeah, I was just going based on the crowd volume though. I think Borderlands 3 is going to get more support from this group.
See, yeah, and I would say that I'm more of a
for
Borderlands 3 guy
Borderlands
than Division 2.
That's
You know,
fine.
I liked Borderlands 3 a little bit more, but I would be really hard pressed on that. I mean, the Division I think would come right behind it for me.
Jeff, what were you thinking?
Yeah, Borderlands 3 is I'd put above Division 2 if we're just talking about those two. I have no issues with Borderlands 3, the current placement that you have it at 4.
Okay.
We're still not talking about Greedfall though.
I think we should take Code Vein off.
Hey,
and
I
put Greedfall
tried.
On. Boom.
No, don't get rid of Code Vein because I want that higher.
Okay, so
You gotta
here's the
choose
thing.
the baby. You were making Tim choose babies earlier, okay?
It's true. It's true. I got a lot of babies.
Yeah.
Hey, so Derek, I got a legit question here. So I've played a little bit of Greedfall, enough to get an idea of the combat and how it looks and that kind of thing. What the
I know
updates
you
is.
hate the running. He's got a stick in his
The
ass.
running looks awful, but that's okay. That's all right. That's okay.
bad.
That's okay. It's got some. It's not a bad game by any stretch, and I can see the lore being very interesting. But I feel like Code Vein is a really good game when it comes to the combat.
Yeah, but I'm not looking to get Code Vein off. I'm not even looking to get Disco Elysium. If anything, I would want to get, and not Wargroove. I'm not going after your baby. I'm thinking Darksiders Genesis. Like, I only put that on there because I was like, well, it's better than the other one.
Let's be honest. Darksiders Genesis is just trying to rip off Diablo, and that's not what the actual origin of that series is. So.
Yeah, but Greedfall is just trying to rip off every other action RPG ever made.
That's true too. Yeah, Spider's just like that worked.
Unique style though, the like sort of colonial like.
Yeah,
I really like that French kind of musketeer.
Again, RPG though. As an RPG, is it the best RPG?
Probably more so than I don't know. I mean, I think Greedfall definitely deserves to be on here because it's very talky, very like Outer Worlds.
It's smart like Outer Worlds.
I think it is just like Outer Worlds, but it's more hack and slashy than shooty, you know.
And then
rough
the
around
other
the edges.
I would say
rough
Outer
around the
Worlds
edges
is
for sure, 100%.
Better, like the dialogue's better. But I still, when I was playing Greedfall, there was so and I told you this, Tim, shut up.
Listen, Tim.
Garbage.
I didn't want to be on Derek's side tonight, but I'm kind of
Tim.
leaning.
Greedfall is this year's Witcher 3, obviously. It's this year's Witcher 3.
You better stop that right now.
But they're different, honestly. I would say.
Can we just put The Witcher 3 on it?
Yes.
If you play it for more than 2 hours and you actually get to the island, you start talking to the different groups and all that stuff, and you start making choices that impact what's happening to these groups. I even explained it when the game came out, Tim. I told you about how I was playing this one mission. It said it had like an active time of 2 hours. So I did another mission that was 5 hours. I did that mission, and it basically said, oh, that one mission, you failed it. And I was like, what? And I was like, because I went past the timeline. I missed it. It's very smart. It's not a dumb game. To me, it's
already on the list, so you're good.
Derek.
What did you take off?
Derek, quick question for you. I moved Darksiders Genesis down because that's the one that's going to probably get kicked unless there's an argument to be made. I'd left it there, though. So, Derek, let's think about Code Vein versus Greedfall. Which one would you rank higher on a best RPG list?
Code Vein.
Different, though.
I know they're different.
Yeah, but that's not the point of
the one that
you have to choose.
Are you asking which one do I love more?
No, this is basically saying which one is a better RPG or RPG hybrid. So you could take away things like... So, like, dialogue's a big part of that, but, like, visuals wouldn't necessarily be. Combat might be a big part of it if it's the RPG elements of the comp. So, you have to decide. I guess it's just for yourself.
So, Code Vein's, I have more fun playing Code Vein, but Greedfall's smarter. And it's more RPG. But I like them both equally. Okay. Like, they're not far off each other in my top 10.
I would pick Code Vein. I would pick Code Vein. We need to give anime a win, Tim. We need to give anime a win.
I'm all about that. I know nothing about Code Vein, but if we're getting anime a win, I'm in.
Code Vein. Hey, I really do like the anime art style. I haven't played it yet, and if it's
Code Vein's got some really cool visuals. Yes,
yeah, I would be up there for it. I think
it's got great combat. It has great RPG elements. Well, I say elements, but it's full on RPG. Like, there's a lot of upgrading. And you need to upgrade. You will get wiped if you don't upgrade. But like I said, when I'm playing Code Vein, I'm playing like a fun game. Like, it's just fun to play that can be frustrating. When I'm playing Greedfall, I'm playing a smart game. I'm playing a RPG, like old school RPG set in a more modern, as far as how it moves and plays, like more modern system.
Okay, that makes sense. Jeff, you've played either of these, yes or no?
Greedfall, no. What's the other one we were...
Code Vein?
Oh, no, I have not played that. I didn't even know it came out this year. I thought it was like permanently delayed. So
yeah, well, came out in September.
Fair.
Okay. Came out in September. Okay, fair enough. Tell me about Disco Elysium, and of these bottom 5, have you played any other ones to compare it to, or are you just saying, nope, I just love it and I want it as high as possible?
I'm already kind of resigned to the fact that it won't be that high.
You're happy with it wherever it lands at the end here.
Honestly, yeah. Like, I was like, it's probably just gonna be at 10 or something, but
it's most people's game of the year. So I mean, it's on the list. You know,
yeah,
it's gonna.
And it's acclaimed for a good reason. I mean, it's very much driven by. I mean, it's RPG AF, as the kids say, I guess. Kids say that, right? I don't know.
Point out the
Yeah.
kids. Point to
The order that I have it in is the one that I would prefer. So our top 5 is. So I'm talking about the bottom half. I'll talk about that in a second. But the top half right now is the Outer Worlds, Fire Emblem, Kingdom Hearts 3, Borderlands 3, and Pokemon. The bottom half is how I would currently order it, kind of based on what I'm hearing, as well as the limited experience I have with at least some of these. Code Vein, Wargroove, Disco Elysium, Greedfall, Division 2. The case I'll make for Wargroove, but you could move it down, is it's mainly the only support I have is kind of what Daniel was saying earlier, that he doesn't think it's a good case for an RPG. It's all strategy RPG, and it does have some kind of permanent characters, a little more Fire Emblem-esque, but just they're not that strong compared to the Fire Emblem RPG elements. So I'm kind of like Jeff on the Disco Elysium thing, where it's if Wargroove ends up towards the bottom, I'm okay with it. The only thing that's weird to me is putting Code Vein and Greedfall up right beside each other, because I feel like Code Vein is way better, and I feel like Division 2, honestly, I'd put higher than Greedfall. But that's just me.
Well, I mean, I think Kyle and I are the only ones that like Greedfall, but I really like Greedfall. Like, I really like it. So,
do you?
I want it high.
I think realistically, Greedfall should be the last one.
I think
but it's still top
realistically,
10.
you should shut your mouth.
Well, yeah, because we just added it in. Right?
I think for the sake of
we just made it.
You're
Yeah.
a terrible person.
I think for the sake of for your health there, Derek, you should wear looser pants. I'm just saying. You should wear,
That's what it
for the
is.
sake of your health.
I think it's probably best that Derek keeps the tight pants. Then he'll have a harder time reproducing. So I think that's better for society.
Oh,
Dan, you know what?
Man,
Yeah.
I always thought you were my boy. Secretly, I thought you were my boy.
No, we're
right.
tight. Believe me, I love your pants. They
Oh,
look
we're
great.
tight.
all right. So
You got 3. You're good.
here's our
Are we
top 10.
gonna rank Derek's pants next, or
They're all the same. They're all the
Number
same.
1. I
Bring
mean,
them all
Yeah.
up.
Hey, Derek, get ready to start doing a fashion show. You're going to walk back and forth a little bit for us.
Can we talk
All right.
about the shirt? It's pretty badass.
So here's the top 10 we have right now, and I'm going to lock it in unless there's any last-minute changes that someone really wants to fight for. Right now we've got, for best RPG or RPG hybrid, number 1 is Outer Worlds, then Fire Emblem, Kingdom Hearts 3, Borderlands 3, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Code Vein, Wargroove, Disco Elysium, The Division 2, and Greedfall.
Tim, can I say something?
Yeah.
So I actually appreciate that we did put Greedfall on there for Derek. I think it's actually very stunning and very brave. So.
Yep.
It's right at that intersection of those two?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Stunning Boulevard and Brave Lane.
Yep, absolutely. So.
Yeah, stop vaping. I saw you vaping.
All right, well, we're going to call that one a wrap for our best RPG or RPG.
I think this is a good list. I mean, I hate Kingdom Hearts 3, but I just got to
Kingdom
throw
Hearts
that
3
shot.
hates you. So.
Kingdom Hate.
Hey, and before we move on from this one real quick, without any, we already talked a lot about each one. Which one is your personal favorite, though, of these? I'll start. My personal favorite is Fire Emblem of all the RPGs this year. Derek, what's yours?
Of RPGs? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just going to say the one I like the most, and that's Borderlands 3.
Okay. Well, Daniel, what about you, Freitas?
Shoot. Can you circle back to me?
Yeah,
This is a tough
Phillips.
I for as much as I love Kingdom Hearts 3 and what it did with the story, Outer Worlds best RPG for me this year.
Nice.
I'm just getting back into playing it after Star Wars, and I am just in love.
Kyle?
It's good.
I would really like to champion Outer Worlds, but it's Fire Emblem. That game really blew me off my feet. I think it might be my most played houred Switch game as well. So
Such a good
for
game.
it.
Jeff?
Outer Worlds. Yep.
Okay, and that how close is Disco Elysium to that for you?
Like
Pretty close.
2 probably. Yeah, it's really close. I
Okay.
mean, I know that game is not going to be for everybody because it's
Well, it's also not available to everybody.
but
That's the biggest
that's
problem.
also true. That is
Yeah.
also true, but it's it's RPG like crazy.
All right, guys, well done. It's time to move on
Well,
to.
I mean, I didn't actually give you my response, Timothy.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Sorry, go ahead.
It's
Freitas.
okay. Considering this is my favorite genre, I was having a hard time kind of with Daniel. I was bouncing between Outer Worlds and Kingdom Hearts 3. You know what? No one else picked. I'm gonna pick Kingdom Hearts 3 just because, like, I think you kind of have to just appreciate again the culmination of like that many years of work and just something story-wise as massive as that series. So
You know, and one thing I will say about 3, it is worth at least doing some research and understanding the story before playing it, because the payoff is definitely worth it.
I did the whole YouTube thing too before I started playing, and I still hated it.
I had to do it like 7 times before it finally.
Well,
tried.
I mean, you have to actually have feelings first, and then
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
that too.
That's true.
That does help.
That's true.
IDC, brother.
Good point.
IDC.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things here.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?